Ever get that feeling, where you're just not quite yourself, like a little sluggish, kind of headache forming, and just a blah feeling overall?
Oh, yeah, we've all been there, right? And it's amazing how often something so basic is the cause.
It really is. And today we are going deep on something very basic, something essential to life, even.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's on the docket?
Well, we're talking all about water.
Ah, hydration. Makes sense. Everyone knows it's important, but I bet there's more to it than meets the eye.
There is actually. We're going to really dig into all the ways to staying properly hydrated can benefit us.
Awesome. Where are we getting all this wisdom from today?
We've got some great sources lined up. Healthline, of course, always a good one for solid science-based info.
Sounds good. Who else?
We've also got the British Dietetic Association. They've got some great practical advice.
Okay, I like it. So we've got the science and the practical application covered. Who else?
The National Council on Age, they bring a really important perspective to the table.
Makes sense. Hydration is especially crucial for older adults.
Exactly. And rounding things out, we've got UC Davis Health. They've got some super comprehensive info on hydration.
All right, so a nice blend of science-backed info, practical tips, and considerations for different age groups.
Exactly. What we're going to do is distill the key takeaways from all these sources, the stuff that'll really make a difference for you.
Love it. Those aha moments, the things you can actually put into practice.
All right, so let's jump right in. When you think about hydration, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, I immediately think about physical activity. When I'm working out or, just being active, that's when I feel the impact of hydration the most, or the lack of it.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. You really notice it then.
Yeah, you really do. And it's kind of wild how even being a little dehydrated can affect your performance.
You would think you'd have to be really dehydrated to notice a difference, all right?
You would think so, but Healthline actually points out that even a 2% drop in body water can make a difference.
2%. That doesn't sound like a lot.
It doesn't, but especially when you're pushing yourself, exercising hard, or it's hot out, it can really impact you.
Yeah, imagine you're in the middle of a tough workout. I remember reading in Healthline that athletes can lose a crazy amount of water weight just through sweat, right? Like 6 to 10%.
That's a ton. It's no wonder they emphasize hydration so much.
And not just for performance either. It messes with your body's temperature control, saps your motivation, makes you feel way more fatigued.
It makes you wonder why such a small change in hydration can have such a big impact, right?
It does. What's going on in the body that makes such a big difference?
Well, think about it. Water is involved in pretty much every process that happens when you're active. Like it carries oxygen and nutrients to your muscles.
Oh, right. So when you're dehydrated, that whole system gets less efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And temperature regulation too, right? Sweating, that's your body's way of cooling down.
And sweat is mostly water.
Right. So if you're low on fluids, you just can't sweat as effectively, and then you overheat.
The staying hydrated helps with performance and also keeps you from overheating. It's really important on multiple levels.
Absolutely. And there's even more to it. Healthline also mentioned that optimal hydration can actually help prevent oxidative stress.
Now, what is oxidative stress exactly? It sounds pretty intense.
It's basically damage to your cells, and it's a natural process, but it can get worse during intense exercise.
So adequate water helps your body deal with that damage better.
Exactly. And here's another thing to think about. Muscle tissue is something like 80% water.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that much.
Yeah, so if you want your muscles to be in tip-top shape, recover well, have that power,
Hydration is key.
you've got it. Whether you're a serious athlete or just enjoy a casual job, staying hydrated makes a huge difference.
So we've talked about physical performance. What about our mental state? Does hydration play a role there too?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, this is where even mild dehydration can have a big impact.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that.
It's true. Both Healthline and the National Council on Aging talk about how losing just 1 to 3% of your fluids can affect your brain function.
1 to 3%. That's so little. I bet that happens all the time without people even realizing it.
Yeah, it could just be a normal day, and you're already experiencing negative effects.
Healthline actually mentioned a study where young women lost about 1.4% of their fluids after exercising. And it wasn't just thirst they felt.
What else did they experience?
Their mood was worse, their concentration was off, and their headaches were worse too.
Wow, that's a lot of effects from losing such a small amount of fluid. Why is the brain so sensitive to dehydration?
It's kind of crazy, right?
It is. I guess it makes sense when you think about how important water is for the brain.
I mean, it's not just for physical stuff, right? It's got to be essential for how the brain works too.
Exactly. Your brain needs that delicate balance of electrolytes and fluids to work properly to send those nerve signals.
And when you're dehydrated, that balance gets messed up.
Right. It can affect blood flow to the brain, how neurotransmitters function, all sorts of things.
It's like the brain cells need to be bathed in just the right fluid environment.
That's a great way to put it. Even a little imbalance can throw things off.
So those young women in the study weren't the only ones, right?
Nope, not at all. They found similar effects in young men, too.
Oh, really? Tell me about it.
Well, they found that losing 1.6% of fluids led to problems with working memory, plus more anxiety and fatigue.
Wow, that's not good.
And here's the kicker. Healthline emphasized that you don't have to be exercising intensely to lose that much fluid. It can just happen during your normal day-to-day life.
Huh. So that afternoon slump that we all feel sometimes, maybe that's just our brains telling us we need more water.
It's definitely something to consider. And it's not just about preventing those negative feelings either. The National Council on Aging talked about how staying hydrated can actually have positive effects.
Like what?
Well, they said it can boost cognition, help to stabilize our emotions, and even help combat anxiety.
It sounds almost too good to be true.
It does, right? And this is especially important for older adults, they emphasized.
I can definitely see how that would be true. It seems like no matter what your age, whether you're young and active or older and maybe not as active, staying hydrated is good for your mood, your memory, your overall brain performance.
It really does. And it makes you think, how many times have we reached for a coffee or a sugary snack when what we really needed was a glass of water?
That was a good question. Something to think about for sure. All right, let's move on to a topic that can really throw a wrench in your day. Headaches.
Ugh, yeah, nobody likes headaches.
Definitely not. And turns out dehydration can be a big trigger for headaches and migraines, according to both Healthline and the NCOA.
Makes sense. I've definitely noticed that when I haven't had enough water, I'm more prone to headaches.
It's a common symptom, Healthline even said.
Yeah, and it's not just about preventing those occasional tension headaches either. There's some evidence that increasing your water intake could actually help people who get headaches frequently.
Healthline mentioned a study where men who upped their water intake by about 1.5 liters saw a huge improvement in their migraine symptoms.
Was it 1.5 liters?
Yeah, that's what they said. And almost half of them reported less severe headaches, too.
That's pretty significant. Do we know why hydration helps with headaches?
Well, they're still figuring out the exact mechanisms, but there are some ideas out there.
Like what?
One theory is that it has to do with blood volume and pressure. When you're dehydrated, your blood volume drops.
Right, because blood is mostly water, too.
Exactly. So your body tries to compensate by constricting the blood vessels, and that can trigger a headache.
That makes sense.
There's another theory that dehydration affects hormone levels, specifically a hormone called vasopressin.
Vasopressin. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it sounds a little complicated, but apparently it can play a role in headache development, too.
Interesting. So the bottom line is, while more research might be needed, it seems like for people who are prone to headaches, just making sure they're drinking enough water could be really helpful.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple thing to try, and it could make a big difference.
Low risk, high reward, right? Okay, what's next on the list?
Well, let's talk about something that people might not be super comfortable discussing, but it's a common issue. Constipation.
Ah, yeah. Not the most glamorous topic, but definitely important.
For sure. And both Healthline and the NCOA pointed out that not drinking enough water is a major risk factor, no matter how old you are.
Makes sense. I feel like everyone knows that already, though. What else did they have to say about it?
Well, they said that in many cases, just upping your fluid intake can make a big difference.
Right, get things moving again. I actually read something interesting in Healthline about mineral water.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that.
Apparently, certain types of mineral water, especially ones with lots of magnesium and sodium, could be particularly helpful for constipation.
Why is that?
Well, the minerals, especially magnesium, can act as a mild laxative.
How does that work?
They draw water into the intestines, which softens everything up and makes it easier to.
To go?
Exactly. Sodium also plays a role in fluid balance in the digestive tract.
So it's not just about how much water you drink, but also what kinds of water, in some cases.
Exactly. And don't forget about fiber.
Oh, right. Fire and water go hand in hand.
The NCOA talked about how water helps to break down soluble fiber.
Which is important because...
Because fiber needs water to work properly. It adds bulk to the stool and helps move things along. But without enough water, it can actually make constipation worse.
Oh, wow. So it can backfire.
Yep. And that's not all. They also mentioned that not drinking enough fluids can lead to other digestive discomforts like gas, bloating, even heartburn.
Yikes. So staying hydrated isn't just about preventing constipation. It's really about making sure your whole digestive system is happy and healthy.
Totally. Okay, ready for the next one. It's not a fun one, but definitely important.
Bring it on.
Kidney stones.
Ouch. Yeah, those are no joke.
Definitely not. They're those super painful mineral deposits that can form in your urinary system.
I remember reading about them in both Healthline and the NCOA.
Yeah, they both explain that drinking more fluids can help prevent them. Makes sense when you think about it.
I mean, you're flushing your system more.
Exactly. You're increasing your urine volume, which dilutes the minerals in your urine.
So they're less likely to crystallize and form those painful stones.
Right. And Healthline even suggested that drinking enough water might help prevent those stones from forming in the first place.
That would be amazing.
It would. They said they need to do more research on that, though.
Makes sense.
Oh, and the NCOA added another benefit of staying hydrated. It helps flush out harmful bacteria from your bladder.
Which is good
It can
because,
help prevent urinary tract infections.
right, UTIs, those are not fun either.
Nope, not at all. So as you can see, something as simple as water plays a huge role in keeping our insides healthy.
Okay, time to shift gears a bit. Let's talk about those times when, well, maybe we had a little too much fun the night before.
Hangovers. Yeah, we've all been there.
For sure. And Healthline actually called alcohol a diuretic.
Meaning.
It makes you pee more, which leads to dehydration.
Right. And that dehydration is what causes all those lovely hangover symptoms.
Thirst, fatigue, headache, dry mouth, all the fun stuff.
The whole package. So what's the best strategy here? Just chug a ton of water the next morning?
Well, that's definitely part of it, but Healthline actually recommended being proactive.
Proactive, how?
They said drinking water between alcoholic drinks and definitely having a good amount before bed can help reduce some of those hangover effects.
Interesting. So combat the dehydration as it's happening.
Right. It's not a miracle cure, but it could make the morning after a little less rough.
Sounds like a good plan to me. All right, what's next?
Let's talk about something that's on a lot of people's minds. Weight management.
Ooh, yeah, good one.
So both Healthline and the NCOA talked about how drinking water can actually help with weight loss.
How so? I mean, water has 0 calories.
Right, but it can make you feel fuller, which means you might eat less overall.
That makes sense intuitively. If your stomach feels full, you're less likely to snack.
Exactly, and there's actually some research that suggests it goes beyond just feeling full.
Really?
Yeah, apparently some studies have shown that drinking water might give your metabolism a little boost.
So you burn more calories even at rest.
That's the idea, and they even have a fancy term for it, water-induced thermogenesis.
That's a mouthful.
It is,
I
right?
think I'll stick with water helps you burn more calories.
Works for me. And they also mentioned the timing of when you drink water seems to matter.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that.
Healthline said that drinking water about 30 minutes before meals seems to be the most effective for helping you feel full.
Interesting. So preload with some water before you eat.
Exactly. They even talked about a study where people on a diet who drank water before meals lost more weight than those who didn't.
That's pretty convincing. And the NCOA had some good points too, didn't they?
They did. They basically said that by drinking more water, you might naturally consume fewer calories overall and less of the stuff that's not so good for you too.
Like what?
Sugar, cholesterol, sodium, saturated fat, all that stuff.
I guess if you're filling up on water, you're less likely to reach for sugary drinks or unhealthy snacks.
Right. So it seems like being more mindful of your water intake could be a helpful part of reaching your weight goals.
Definitely something to keep in mind. So we've covered a lot of specific benefits of staying hydrated, but what about those fundamental ways that water keeps our bodies running smoothly?
Good question. Let's get into that.
Well, for starters, UC Davis Health and the British Dietetic Association both emphasize that water is essential for transporting nutrients to our cells and removing waste products.
Right. It's like our internal delivery and waste disposal system all rolled into one.
Exactly. It's the essential medium for everything our body does. But that's not all.
What else?
Lubrication. The BDA and the NCOA highlighted this one. Water helps lubricate our joints and our eyes.
Oh, right.
And did you know that the cartilage in our joints is about 80% water?
Wow. I didn't realize it was that much.
It is, and that's what helps reduce friction and allows for smooth movement.
That's why when people are dehydrated, they sometimes feel stiff or achy.
Makes sense.
And of course, we can't forget about temperature regulation.
Ah, yes, super important. Sweating is how our bodies cool down, and staying hydrated allows us to sweat effectively.
Especially when it's hot out or we're exercising.
Yep, that's why it's so important to drink plenty of fluids in those situations. It helps prevent heat stroke. And the BDA even mentioned that water plays a role in keeping our skin healthy.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It does. It contributes to skin elasticity and overall appearance.
So staying hydrated is a beauty tip, too.
You could say that. And remember, the NCOA mentioned how important water is for detoxification.
Right. It's involved in how our kidneys and liver function and also helps with, well, healthy bowel movements.
Exactly. All those processes are key for getting rid of waste products from the body.
It's amazing how water is involved in so many different things. And before we forget, the BDA had a very important point for pregnant and breastfeeding women.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
They stressed how important it is to get enough fluids, not just for their own health, but also for the baby and for breast milk production.
Makes sense. There's a lot of demand for fluids during those times.
Absolutely. So I think we've established pretty clearly that water is absolutely essential for all sorts of bodily functions.
No doubt about it.
But the big question everyone's probably wondering is, how much do we actually need to drink every day?
Right. How much is enough?
Exactly.
Well, the BDA offered a general guideline of about 1.5 to 2 liters of fluid per day for adults. That's roughly 8 to 10 glasses.
Okay, so that's a good starting point.
It is, but they also emphasize that it's just a general guideline.
Right, everyone's different.
Exactly. Your individual needs will depend on things like your activity level and the climate you live in.
So someone who's very active and lives in a hot climate would need more than someone who's less active and lives in a cooler climate.
Right. And the NCOA pointed out that if you're exercising, it's hot and humid out, or you're losing fluids from vomiting or diarrhea, you'll need to drink even more.
Makes sense. And I guess waiting until you feel thirsty isn't the best strategy, right?
Probably not. The BBA said that by the time you feel thirsty, you're already a little bit dehydrated.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They actually suggested paying attention to the color of your urine as a better indicator.
Interesting.
Yeah, if it's a pale straw color, you're probably well hydrated, but if it's darker, you need to drink more. The NCOA agreed with this too.
Makes you think twice about that old 8x8 rule, right?
The one about drinking eight-ounce glasses of water a day.
Yeah, that one. Is there any truth to it?
Well, Healthline actually mentioned that while it's a popular rule, it doesn't have a lot of scientific backing as a hard and fast rule for everyone.
So it's not like a magic number or anything.
Right. The underlying principle is good, though staying hydrated is important.
Absolutely.
The NCOA actually suggested a different approach. Take 1/3 of your body weight in pounds, and that's how many ounces of fluid you should aim for each day.
I like that. It's more personalized.
And UC Davis Health had some more specific recommendations for different groups of people. They said men should aim for about 13 cups a day, women around 9 cups, pregnant women a bit more, and breastfeeding women even more than that.
Wow, that's a lot of variation.
It is, and for kids and teens, they recommended 6 to 8 cups. But the important thing is, if you have any health conditions or take medications, it's best to check with your doctor about how much you should be drinking.
Makes sense. They can tailor the advice to your specific needs.
Exactly.
Now, when we talk about staying hydrated, we're not just talking about plain water, right?
Nope, not at all. The BDA clarified that pretty much any beverage you drink will contribute to your overall hydration.
So that includes
Water, obviously, but also milk, fruit juice, tea, coffee.
even soft drinks.
Even those, yeah, although they're not the healthiest choice.
Fair enough.
And they really emphasize that tap water is a fantastic option. It's readily available, affordable, and does the job perfectly well.
Right, no need to get fancy.
Exactly. And don't forget about food. We get some fluids from the foods we eat, too.
Oh, right, like fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, the BDA and UC Davis Health both mentioned that things like cucumbers, tomatoes, and melons have a high water content, so they can help you stay hydrated too.
That's good to know. I love watermelon, so that's good news for me.
There you go. Now, what about those caffeinated beverages? I know there are always questions about whether they actually dehydrate you.
Yeah, like coffee and tea, do they count towards our fluid intake or not?
Well, here's the thing. Caffeine is a mild diuretic, meaning it can make you pee a little more.
So does that mean it's dehydrating?
Not necessarily. Both the BDA and UC Davis Health said that for most people, the amount of fluid in those drinks outweighs the diuretic effect.
So your morning coffee or afternoon tea still counts towards your daily fluid intake?
Exactly. Now, they did recommend limiting sugary drinks, though.
Like sodas and sweetened juices?
Yep. They're associated with dental problems and an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, so it's best to opt for sugar-free alternatives or save them for special occasions.
Makes sense. And what about drinks with added cream or full-fat milk?
Those are higher in calories and fat, so it's better to think of them as treats rather than your go-to hydration sources.
Okay, good to know. And before we move on, UC Davis Health mentioned something about plastic water bottles in hot cars.
Oh, right. They pointed out that those bottles can potentially release chemicals when left in hot cars for a long time.
Is that something to be worried about?
Well, the FDA says the amounts are usually too small to cause health problems, but it's still a good idea to avoid leaving them in a hot car if possible.
Good to know. All right, so we know why hydration is so important, and we have a better idea of how much fluid we need. What are some practical tips for staying hydrated throughout the day?
Well, the BDA and NCOA both emphasize the importance of being consistent.
So don't wait until you're super thirsty.
Exactly. Drink fluids regularly throughout the day. One easy way to do that is to keep a water bottle handy and refill it often.
I find that just having a water bottle on my desk helps me remember to sip on it throughout the day.
That's a great strategy. The NCOA also recommended drinking a glass of water with every meal.
Oh, that's a good one. Easy to remember.
Right? And try to make water and other low-calorie beverages your main drinks. If you're someone who finds plain water a bit boring, UC Davis Health had a good suggestion.
What's that?
They said to add some natural flavors to your water, like slices of fruit or fresh herbs.
Like mint or cucumber?
Yeah, those would be nice. Or lemon lime. get creative with it.
Okay, great tips. Now, I think we should touch on when dehydration becomes a serious issue.
Yeah, when is it time to seek medical attention?
Exactly.
The NCLA explained that if it's just mild dehydration, usually drinking more fluids will do the trick, but severe dehydration is a different story.
What are the signs of severe dehydration?
Things like feeling really dizzy or faint, having a super dry mouth, rapid breathing or heartbeat, dark urine, and not peeing very much.
Okay, those sound serious
They are. If you or someone you know is experiencing those symptoms, it's important to get medical help right away.
because they might need IV fluids.
Exactly. It can be a serious medical emergency.
Okay, so bottom line.
Staying hydrated is crucial for our overall health and well-being. It affects pretty much every system in our body, from our physical and cognitive performance to preventing various health issues.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. Just making small, consistent efforts to drink more fluids can really make a difference in how we feel.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, here's a challenge. Try keeping track of your fluid intake for a couple of days.
Like a little hydration journal.
Exactly. Just notice how you feel throughout the day. What do you notice about your energy levels, your mood, your concentration?
And then think about what small changes you could make to improve your hydration habits.
Exactly. Maybe it's just keeping a water bottle with you all the time, or adding some fruit to your water to make it more appealing.
Or drinking a glass of water with every meal.
Whatever works for you. The point is to find what helps you stay hydrated and feel your best.